Today, Nintendo has released this very special edition Nintendo Switch Lite. Which we're gonna talk about a little bit too, because I know there's gonna be a little frustration over this being a Lite and not, say, you know, a certain newer model OLED. We'll talk about that though. Let's go ahead and open this up. So this is celebrating the upcoming remakes of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. And what's really neat about it is it's actually a throwback reference to another special edition that Nintendo has done in the past. I sadly don't own that special edition because I wasn't collecting systems that early on. Now the cool thing about Lites is they're pretty easy to unbox. You don't have to deal with Joy-Cons or a dock or anything. We just get the system right away. Yeah, because back here we just have, power cables, all the good stuff we can set aside. Oh yeah. So you could kind of tell in the original promotional images and everything for this system, but this definitely has a metallic sheen to it. It's not just like a flat gray. It just has that extra little bit of shininess, and there's almost like a, not exactly a gradient, but just the almost very fine pattern of different kind of shades of gray, creating that metallic look. That's really nice. Now, because this is celebrating the 4th generation of Pokemon, the two that we have featured on the back here are Dialga and Palkia. And as I mentioned earlier, this is actually a direct reference to a limited edition DS that they released back when these games originally came out. It was in the same color as this Switch and featured these same designs in that same kind of gold silver aesthetic going on right here. I'm actually really excited that I was able to get my hands on this one, because to be honest, 4th generation has a very special place in my heart. 2nd gen is always gonna be like my top favorite because guess what? I'm in my early 30s and therefore I grew up with it, so I love it. But 4th gen was actually the game that got me back into Pokemon. I took a break during 3rd gen, and then in my college years, it was actually Platinum, so it was the 4.5 release, but that was really the game that got me back in. Chimchar is actually my favorite starter, so I'm really excited for the Diamond Pearl remakes coming out very soon, and this system celebrating it is just something that I am really happy to have my hands on. However though, one thing that obviously this is going to start a little bit of a conversation about, and I've seen a few people already remark after I posted a picture of this on Twitter, why isn't it an OLED? This is the 2nd special edition Switch Lite that's been released, and the 7th Switch Lite overall. They had their original run of the turquoise, yellow, and gray shortly after they released the 1st special edition system, which I actually have right here, which is also Pokemon themed, celebrating Sword and Shield. We're gonna do a little comparison of these in a moment. Over time, they slowly released more colors with the coral pink, a blue color that is very obviously not blue and is so close to looking like the GameCube Indigo. And now with this, we have the Diamond Pearl Switch Lite. And it's really interesting to actually look at how this one stacks compared to the Sword and Shield one. Part of this obviously is again the fact that this is meant to recreate the look of a previous special edition system, which does constrain it a little bit, but at the same time gives it this kind of coolness factor of being a throwback. But even with that in mind, I actually really do like some of the design choices on here compared to what they've done with the only other special edition. In particular, the etchings on the back stand out so much more on the Diamond Pearl one. Part of this is because they chose to go with a very dark metallic gray for the body, and so that gold and silver are able to have a lot more obvious contrast. By comparison, on the Sword and Shield one, while I do really like it, I do think this is still one of the better special editions that Nintendo has done for the Switch. I definitely think that the designs on the back could have stood out a little more and popped kind of like we're seeing on this new one. One of the cool bonuses of it though is that it does have that blue and magenta going on the front, which is this very cool thematic sword versus shield kind of dynamic, whereas on the Diamond Pearl, we're just sticking with all black for the buttons and sticks, which again, I think is meant to really focus on it being that throwback reference to the DS design and keeps it a very simple looking front. But of course there is that question again of why isn't this an OLED? I think with Nintendo's own interior logic, a lot of this has to do with Pokemon's history as a franchise, and the fact that it is primarily a handheld franchise. Yes, there have been home console games that have been released, but those have all been spin-off titles like Pokemon Stadium, Coliseum, and Pokemon Snap, whereas all the mainline entries have always been on their handheld systems. And the Switch is the first time that rule's really kind of been broken because of the fact that the Switch is a hybrid of both. And with that in mind, I think Nintendo does plan to continue supporting the Switch Lite as being something that is kind of like the 3DS was to the Wii U, but in a weirder way because they actually are the same system in this case with Switch Lite and Switch, but it is the cheaper, more affordable, handheld dedicated option. And honestly, I don't think this is going to be the last Switch Lite we'll ever see because of that fact. I understand the frustration that we have this brand new model, the Switch Oled, that has all these enhancements and upgrades and features, though I will admit, I talked about this a little bit in my Switch OLED versus Switch Lite video. Opening up a new Switch Lite and just having my hands on one again after kind of using my OLED as my main system the past couple weeks, I do kind of miss it. There's something about the unibody design and the overall smaller shape that I still really love about the system. It feels more like a true traditional handheld to me, which has always been a very heavy focus for me with my gaming systems. And it really does make me wish that it's not so much that I wish that they had done an OLED special edition in the system, as much as I really wish that when they released the Switch OLED, they did a Switch Lite update alongside of it. In my mind, the perfect Switch for me is still a Lite model like this in body and design with the D-pad, the smaller size, but also embraces those same OLED upgrades with the larger screen filling more of the space available, and of course being OLED to give you that better contrast in colors. And so I know when most people say, why didn't they make this an OLED? I know they're talking about like the OLED style system, but in my own heart, I just immediately go, man, I wish it was just this with an OLED display. Perfection. As far as how this stacks against Switch special editions in general, I do think it's one of the better ones. Not that it has a whole lot of competition, to be honest. This is something that I have not been very shy about saying. I feel like Nintendo has not really put the full effort into some of the special edition systems for the Switch, especially the earlier on ones. They've gotten better with time. I think the Animal Crossing one is definitely one of the best examples, especially with the Joy-Con colors, the patterning on the back, the dock being a completely different color, an actual very interesting looking design. And this really stands up there, I think, as one of the best looking ones because of that metallic finish that looks really nice. And just again, even though it's a little simpler than some of the other ones, that vibe of it just being a throwback to the DS gives it that little extra kind of special emotional connection to the past. So those are my thoughts on the Dialga and Palkia Switch Lite. I am really happy with how this turned out in person. Let me know down below in the comments what you think. Do you wish this was an OLED model? Are you happy they stuck with this being a Lite design? Were you able to grab one yourself? Are you looking to grab one? Let me know down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys later.